Okay, first the basics. I know some of you have a lot more skill or practice, but we're still going to do this. We're going to do simple hovering flight. So when I give the go, I want you to spool up your engines, let them get up to speed, and then take off from the ground straight up. Probably at most you only need to go up about 10 AGL. When you're there, the goal is to hold your chopper in a static position. Do not use auto hover. It's really obvious. If I see it, I'm just going to throw you out. One of the key tricks to maintaining a proper stationary orbit or hover is find something on the ground through the view of your cockpit that is static. Use that and maintain that in that same position. Use the visual reference, visual cue to maintain your hover side to side, front to back. If you find, say, a bush or a tile on the runway or another one of these landing marks, keep that in the same exact place in your cockpit and odds are you'll stay there. The goal is to remain within probably about 5 meters of where you lift off. Keep in mind you have birds very close to you right now, so be present about your bird. If you see someone drifting towards you, go ahead and move. Alright, if there's no questions, everybody spool up and begin your auto hover. Or not auto hover, but your yeah, not auto hover. Begin your hovering flight. Alright, now this is going to throw a wrench in everybody's plans. I want you to use your rudders and rotate 180 degrees so that you're facing the other direction while maintaining your hover. Greg, do you want to watch it? Your yeah, please do. Try and find a stable hover once you've completed that. Witchy, do me a favor and gain a little bit of altitude. You're about to hit my little bird.
Okay, I'm global now, right? I'll take some global. A good piece of advice for when you're rotating the rudder is to, especially with the Black Hawk, apply a small, minute amount of nose down. What this does is that you'll find if you rotate too quickly the rudder, the tail of the aircraft will want to drift down, which is obviously going to send you backwards from your hover. By tilting the angle of, well, by, in my words, decreasing your angle of attack, whereby you're pitching the nose down, you'll find that it will counteract that force. Yes, as Upchuck says, it takes small movements to keep yourself in a hover. Yeah, Waholly, it'll help Waholly if you started to lower altitude so you're a bit closer to the ground and you have something to reference. You pick up a bush somewhere to your front and generally just try and keep that bush in that exact same position, making the small movements you need to make.
Alright guys, let's go ahead and set them down onto your pads that you took off from. Remember when you're landing, be gentle. You don't want to touch these down hard. If you're using a keyboard, just tap your S key to bring yourself down softly, feather it down.
Though I do not support the action of using a keyboard and mouse to fly in armour. Get a joystick.
Ignore Jet Strike. You can be a competent pilot with both.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Stop lying to them.
Nice and slow, Andrew. Small movements, bring it to a hover, and then bring it down. There you go. Slowly decrease your altitude. Watch that, you're drifting back. Smaller movements, Andrew. Keep overcorrecting.
Once you've touched down, turn your engine off and come out to me.
Who's this over here? Someone's having issues. Oh dear. Black Hawk down.
Alright, Andrew, slowly bring it down. You don't need to be precise on where you landed, just get her on the ground. There you go, good job.
Well, Holly, you okay? You'll be okay.
It's all practice.
Yeah.
Don't worry about crashing right now.
Yeah. Put it this way, it's better to crash here than it is to crash in a mission.
And this mission is on the test server if you ever want to practice.
I don't mind the crazy NH6 pilot. Go on. Yes, there is a performance increase due to optimizations in the recent beta patch. Yep, good to hear. Alright guys, if you want to form back up so those that don't have their acre disabled can hear each other. You want to center around the guy who's waving his hand in the air.
How do we sit down?
Miss a button combination, find it yourself. Alright, from there I say very good. I don't know who's using joystick, who's using a mouse and keyboard. Generally, if you're using a mouse and keyboard, you got to be able to balance it so you have the capability to put in minute inputs into the joystick, such as when you're in the hover where that'll come in, but you've also got to then be able to put in hard movements whereby you're throwing the stick about quite literally. So if that's all I say for the keyboard and mouse, joystick users, it's down to sensitivity and your current placement and generally the quality of your joystick plays in.
Yeah, I mean, I've used both. Joysticks, you really want to be careful in making sure you set up dead zones. If you have the ability to set up a curve on your joystick, if it's one of the fancy ones, I strongly recommend that so you can maintain a good subtle movements while you're near the center of the stick, but still be able to produce very drastic movements towards the outside. Nimbo, side note?
Yeah, since we were going over the controls, you have to realize that there's two types of controls in ARMA for your joystick. There's the manual throttle and the automatic throttle. You want to go over that?
Not really. This class is controller agnostic. We're just touching on it really briefly.
Well, it's just because I noticed that a lot of people were having issues with putting in minute movements, so I thought I'd just bring it up.
Okay, if you want to talk briefly on it, go for it.
Okay, well, basically, the way you add power to your engine in the default setting works more like autopilot. In the manual setting, you have direct control over the RPMs of the engine. The only problem that is that when you do that,
The dead zone on that setting
you need
depends.
to apply a fix full throttle mapping, and there's a solution for that which I'm going to link in the side in the chat, I guess.
Yeah, you also have to be careful because different joysticks with the analog setting have a different dead zone. So you'll just want to be careful and generally though, if in this case, just if you get to know by flying in the editor offline with your joystick or mouse and keyboard, you've just got to be able to find the feel and adjust it to whatever suits you. Anyway, as I say, I saw some good examples of flight. People able to keep it nice and steady in the hover. Some people a bit wavy, obviously, but as you see in the end, you'll soon get it.
Yep, it's really just comes down to practice. Another thing to always keep in mind, again, this is to your surroundings. Make sure you have a way to look around your cockpit without losing control of your vehicle. That's one of the problems with keyboard and mouse people, is that if you use Alt to turn your head around, you are no longer controlling your bird. So if you can find a way to do that, I can't recommend enough. Trek IR or Free Track is incredibly useful, but not required. But you just always got to watch where you're going. A couple people were drifting pretty close to obstacles that would have ended badly. All right. Anybody have specific questions about what we just did?
Let's do it again.
The editor.
All right. Takeoff. It's pretty simple. You all just did it. You all just took off. You know, the only difference between if you're going somewhere, you just nose forward and you go that direction. When you're dealing with large flights of helicopters, or even 2 or 3, you want to make sure that you're really clear about when you're taking off, so that everybody else knows around you what's going on. We've seen, I think, way too many times people taking off and heading in the same direction and colliding because one person can't see the other.
Yeah, best example is from the Idrang event video.
Yeah.
I had the perfect seat for that.
Yes, anyway, but a good example and a good suggestion to do for that scenario is, even if the mission does not allocate a flight leader, either elect or vote yourself a flight leader. And what that person's going to do is control the flight, i.e. telling when to take off, when to land, order of landing, order of takeoff, and such.
Yeah, at bare minimum, communicate with your other pilots that your call sign is lifting off, so that they know that you're taking off, and then they can make a visual check for you. Again, when you're coming in, let them know you're coming in. If you are on a back and forth flight path, it is really good to establish altitudes that you're going to operate at. This will prevent easy to avoid collisions. We actually had one of these in Idrang as well, because it was pitch black and nobody could actually see anything. But we eventually established altitudes so that people could move back and forth without worrying about flying directly into somebody. Landing. This is a fun topic. I see a lot of people do insane, crazy bank turn landings, and it drives me absolutely batshit insane. I can't speak for the other instructors, but to me it is a horrible, horrible habit to get into. When you are coming in hot on a LZ and you do some insane maneuver to try and land, you are essentially just making yourself into a giant target that has no ability to maneuver. If you can, unless there's some drastic reason you need to do something else, you should always approach an LZ excuse me, approach an LZ with a smooth, controlled glide path. That means you are traveling from an altitude down to an altitude at an angle, decreasing speed as you approach. This takes a decent amount of practice, but when you get good at it, you should be able to come in and touch down very gently right where you want to be, without having to worry about braking, maneuvering, or doing anything else. This kind of approach also allows you to continue scanning and making sure that you're not flying into something. You also haven't given up your speed, so if there is a problem, if the LZ suddenly becomes hot, or you see a Stinger or RPG coming at you, you have reaction time. Maintaining that awareness and maintaining the ability to maneuver to avoid obstacles or dangers is incredibly important, and will go a long way to keeping you alive as well as your passengers.
My quick 2 words on that one as well.
Oh, of course.
I generally recommend that on approaches to an LZ, what you do is that you don't immediately drop the throttle straight away. As Upchuck mentioned with the death climb, that's one of the symptoms of it, but a good suggestion I always make is to walk your throttle in, i.e. you're simply increasing the angle of attack on the helicopter and walking it in on the throttle which allows you to control your altitude and your approach much better and smoother. And especially so if you want to walk in quickly or slow, depending if the LZ is hot or yellow. You know, there may be threats in there, so you want to be in and out quickly. You know, you can use this method to generally get yourself in there nice and low, into cover if needs be, and then get yourself out of there.
Correct. I mean, if you imagine a glide path or an approach path, and you draw a line, and you're 100% speed at the beginning of it and 0% speed at the end of it, just slowly decrease as you come in. Don't worry about burning off all your speed beforehand and then making a slow approach. You should be coming in smoothly. If it's at hot LZ, you'll want to delay your glide path and your braking until you're closer to it, but you still want to avoid the big, crazy banked turns or excessive maneuvers. The other trick about those maneuvers is 9 times out of 10, they're going to toss you up about 200 feet, which makes it even harder to get down on the ground and into cover if you need to.
Yep. Do you want a quick demo flight on that one?
Actually, I think one of the best ways to do this is to actually have everybody flying with us, and we will let everyone follow the next bird in on a glide path and land together.
I think from here, because in this clear area, they'll be able to see the angle that's on the approach and the view distance is far enough. Simple, just landing down the runway, land by the side here.
Alright, sure. Go for it.
Borrowing a Black Hawk.
Anybody have any questions about takeoff and landing?
I'm still a bit unclear on what this whole thing of walking in is. I guess I'll say that.
Alright, so
It basically means that you're using the throttle to control the aircraft in a sense. You're setting it at a set fixed pitch, and then you're walking it in on the throttle, decreasing and increasing it as you need be. I'll show you in this demonstration.
So what would you say would be the fastest we can, because it has wheels, so I mean you can still be having horizontal speeds. So what would you say the parameters for that is?
Armor's horizontal speeds are very, very low, otherwise you will damage the aircraft. General rule of thumb is not to do a rolling landing in my book.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, the highest I've got it the highest I've got it down without damaging was about 35, and even that was touchy.
What about vertical?
Soft as a baby's ass. You never want to come down with any speed. You want to. You want your VAR to be pretty low, -1, -2.
Yeah.
There's been quite a few I come down and thought was perfect, and it still gave me damage.
Alright, cool.
Okay, so I'm now turning in for my landing approach. I'll start talking it in as I come into your view. What I'm doing now is I'm approaching at 170 kph. Fairly regular still, nose is pitched forward. Should be in your view now. I'm going to start flaring the nose up and decreasing my throttle input. I see the speed's bleeding off now. This is a fairly slow and mundane approach, but I'm trying to demonstrate here what exactly is going on. So as I see I'm walking it in now on the throttle, decreasing my angle of attack, walking it in, using this time here to identify the exact landing zone I want to put it down on. So in this case, these dotted stripes on the runway. Now I'm really flaring the nose, walking the throttle down again, balancing it, bringing it nice and slow in, wheels down.